My beloved child, stop here for a moment, because the message that found you today did not arrive empty. Something has been moving behind the silence. Something has been turning inside a heart that still speaks your name without letting the world hear it. And before you scroll past this, before you convince yourself this is just another message, listen closely, because the one who loves you is not as free as they appear. There is a person connected to your spirit who carries feelings they have not fully confessed. They may smile in front of others, they may act balanced, they may pretend their days are untouched by your absence, but heaven has seen what happens when the noise fades and they are left alone with the truth. Their heart does not move away from you as easily as their actions made it seem. Their soul keeps returning to one question, one memory, one invisible thread that still pulls them toward you when they least expect it. But something is holding them back. And this is where the mystery begins. Because it is not the absence of love. No, that is not the problem. If love were missing, their spirit would not keep searching for signs of you. If love were gone, your energy would not still interrupt their thoughts in quiet moments. If love had faded, they would not feel that strange heaviness when your name appears, when a familiar place reminds them of you, when the smallest detail opens a door inside them they thought they had locked forever. They love you in a way they do not know how to carry. And that is why their silence has felt so confusing. They have been standing between two worlds. One world is the life they show everyone, the controlled face, the careful words, the routine, the responsibilities, the appearance of moving forward. But the other world is hidden. It is the world where your presence still lives. It is the world where they replay what they should have said, what they should have done, what they were too afraid to admit when the moment was still open. Stay till the end, because what is holding them back is not what you first imagined. For a long time, you may have thought their distance meant rejection. You may have wondered if they forgot you, replaced you, misunderstood you, or simply decided that your connection was not worth the effort. But heaven is revealing something deeper. Their hesitation was not born from emptiness. It was born from fear, not fear of you, but fear of what loving you would require them to face within themselves. There is a mirror you became in their life, and they were not prepared for it. You showed them parts of themselves they had avoided. Your presence awakened emotions they could not manage with simple explanations. You reached a place in them that no ordinary connection had reached before, and instead of feeling only comfort, they also felt exposed. They felt seen. They felt known. And sometimes, when a person has spent years hiding from their own heart, being loved honestly can feel almost too powerful to receive. So they pulled back. Not because you were too little, because what they felt was too much. There were moments when they nearly came forward. Heaven saw them. A message typed and erased. A call almost made. A confession almost spoken. A question held at the edge of their mouth. They wanted to step closer, but something inside them whispered, "What if I fail this? What if I am not ready? What if I open this door and cannot protect what is on the other side?" That is the burden they have been carrying. They do not only fear loving you, they fear losing you after finally admitting how deeply you matter. And that fear has made them move strangely, sometimes warm, sometimes distant, sometimes present, sometimes unreachable. Their energy has not been steady because their inner world has not been steady. They are not simply deciding between you and nothing. They are deciding between the person they have been and the person they would have to become to love you properly. That transformation is not small. There is a hidden pressure around them. It may come from old wounds, family expectations, pride, timing, past mistakes, or the fear of being judged. It may come from the memory of a love that once cost them too much, or from a belief that they are not yet worthy of the kind of bond you represent. But beneath all of that, one truth continues to rise. They have not released you, even when they tried, even when they distracted themselves, even when they told themselves to be practical, even when they acted like silence was strength. Your soul left an imprint they cannot explain away. And now heaven is pressing upon the place they have avoided. Something in their life is beginning to make them uncomfortable with pretending. They are starting to realize that peace is not found in running from what is true. They are seeing that avoidance does not erase love. It only makes the heart louder. And the more they try to bury what they feel, the more unexpected signs begin to surround them. A song, a memory, a dream, a sudden ache, a conversation that reminds them of you, a quiet moment where their heart says your name before their mind can stop it. This is not accidental. The divine has been allowing small reminders to rise around them, not to punish them, but to awaken them. Because love that is real cannot remain forever trapped behind fear. It may be delayed, it may be tested, it may be hidden beneath layers of confusion, but it will continue to knock on the inner door until someone finally has the courage to open it. And this person is closer to that door than you think. But here is the part that must be understood. They are not only afraid of coming toward you, they are afraid of what you might see if they do. They know you are not easily fooled by surface words. They know your spirit listens deeper than most. They know that if they stand before you honestly, excuses will not be enough. They will have to show truth. They will have to explain silence. They will have to admit the battles they kept private. They will have to reveal why love was present, but action was delayed. And that is why the next step feels heavy for them. Because once they cross that line, they cannot return to pretending. Heaven is showing me that they have been watching more than you realize. Not always in obvious ways. Not always directly. But their attention has moved toward you again and again. They have tried to understand your mood, your growth, your distance, your silence, your strength. They have wondered whether you still care. They have wondered whether the door is still open. They have wondered whether they waited too long. And that question has started to trouble them. What if they waited too long? What if the heart they kept delaying becomes the heart they can no longer reach? What if the person they loved quietly finally chooses peace over waiting? This thought has shaken them more than they are willing to admit. Because somewhere deep inside, they believed time would remain patient. They believed your connection would stay suspended, waiting for them to become brave. But your energy has changed. You are not standing in the same place anymore. You are growing. You are healing. You are becoming harder to reach through weak effort and unclear intention. And they can feel it. They feel that something is shifting. That is why their spirit is restless. You may not see it yet, but heaven has been arranging a confrontation inside them. Not a loud confrontation with chaos, but a sacred one. The kind that happens in silence when the soul can no longer lie to itself. They are being asked internally, will you keep hiding from what is real, or will you finally honor what your heart already knows? This is the moment they are approaching. And it is not simple, because the thing holding them back is tied to a wound they rarely speak about. They learned somewhere along the way that love can become loss, that closeness can become disappointment, that vulnerability can become weakness in the hands of the wrong people. So when you entered their life with something sincere, something rare, something that touched their deeper self, they did not only feel attraction. They felt danger to the walls they had built. Not danger from you. Danger to the old version of themselves. You became a doorway, and they were not ready to walk through it. But now the door is opening again. There is a reason this message has reached you at this exact moment. It is not only about what they feel. It is about what heaven is asking you to understand before the next chapter moves. You are not being asked to chase confusion. You are not being asked to lower your worth. You are not being asked to accept half love, hidden love, or love that only lives in thoughts but never becomes action. You are being shown the truth so your heart does not mistake delay for defeat. Because delay is not always denial. Sometimes delay is the sound of a person wrestling with the very thing they prayed for but did not know how to hold. And you were not ordinary to them. That is why they could not handle you in an ordinary way. They may have tried to place you in a simple category. A memory, a chapter, a lesson, a passing feeling. But your spirit did not fit there. You kept rising in places they did not expect. You kept appearing in their mind during moments that had nothing to do with you. You became connected to their sense of future, even when they refused to say it out loud. And now the future is asking them a question. Will they let fear decide again? Or will they finally move? There is something they have not told you. Something about the way they saw you when they first realized your presence was different. They may not have said it, but there was a moment when their inner world paused. Something about your energy made them feel both comforted and challenged. They saw strength in you. They saw depth. They saw something they wanted to come closer to, but also something they feared they might not be able to match. That fear created hesitation. They wondered if you deserved more than they could give. They wondered if your heart would expect honesty they had not yet learned to offer. They wondered if loving you would require them to become braver than they had ever been. And the answer was yes. That is why heaven did not allow this connection to remain shallow. This connection pressed on hidden places. It revealed what needed healing. It exposed patterns. It made both hearts aware of what could no longer continue. And although this has been painful at times, it has not been meaningless. Something sacred was working beneath the surface, even in the silence, even in the waiting, even in the confusion. But now the silence is becoming too heavy. Their heart has begun to feel the cost of holding back. They are starting to realize that protecting themselves from vulnerability may also mean losing the one person who made them feel truly seen. And this realization does not come gently. It comes like a quiet storm. It comes when they are alone. It comes when they see something beautiful and wish they could share it. It comes when they hear laughter and suddenly remember yours. It comes when they imagine a future and notice that your absence makes it feel incomplete. Something huge is waiting beneath their hesitation. And the closer they get to admitting it, the more their outer behavior may become unpredictable. Do not be surprised if their energy shifts suddenly. Do not be surprised if they seem curious, emotional, indirect, or unusually aware of you. When a person has buried truth for too long, the first signs of awakening do not always look clear. Sometimes they circle the truth before they speak it. Sometimes they test the waters before they enter. Sometimes they reach through small gestures because the full confession still feels too powerful. But heaven is not impressed by half steps forever. There comes a moment when the soul must choose. And that moment is nearing. You are being asked to stay centered, not desperate. Soft, but not weak. Open, but not unguarded. Loving, but not willing to disappear inside someone else's fear. Because if they come forward, they must come forward with more than emotion. They must come with clarity. They must come with respect. They must come with the willingness to face the truth they avoided. The divine is preparing you for that. Because love is not only a feeling. Love is a decision that must eventually leave the hidden room. And this person has been living too long in the hidden room. There is a scene heaven keeps showing in the spirit, a person standing before a closed door, hand lifted, almost knocking, then pulling back. Again and again. Not because the door is locked, but because the knock would change everything. Behind that door is honesty. Behind that door is accountability. Behind that door is the possibility of a future they have imagined but not yet dared to claim. And behind that door is you. They know it. That is why the hesitation hurts. Because this is not about not knowing what they feel. It is about knowing enough to be afraid. There is a difference. A person who feels nothing walks away peacefully. But this person has not been peaceful. Their spirit has been unsettled. Their emotions have been rising in unexpected waves. Their mind has tried to explain you away, but the soul does not accept shallow explanations for deep connections. They have asked themselves why you still matter, and every answer leads back to something they cannot dismiss. You reached them, not just their attention, not just their desire. You reached the guarded place, the place they protect with jokes, silence, distance, busyness, pride, and careful words. You reached the part that still hopes to be loved without pretending. And because you reached that place, they could not remain unchanged. This is why the connection has felt spiritually charged. It was never only about attraction. It was never only about timing. There was a lesson wrapped inside the longing, a healing wrapped inside the confusion, a calling wrapped inside the emotional pull. Heaven used this connection to reveal where love was possible, but also where fear was still ruling. And now fear is being challenged. Their heart is being asked to stop calling hesitation wisdom. Their soul is being asked to stop calling avoidance protection. Their spirit is being asked to stop treating love like a threat. But the final barrier is still standing. And this is the part you must hear carefully. What holds them back is not only fear of being hurt. It is fear of being fully known. They have a side they think would disappoint you. A weakness, a regret, a mistake, an insecurity, a hidden feeling of not being enough. They wonder if you would still look at them the same way if you knew how much they struggled inside. They wonder if your respect would remain if their polished image cracked. They wonder if love could survive the truth of their unfinished self. And because of that, they have delayed the very honesty that could set them free. But heaven is moving closer to that hidden place now. A truth is rising. A confession is forming. A choice is approaching. And before part 1 closes, you need to understand one more thing. This person's love has not been silent because it is small. It has been silent because it is standing behind a wall that was built long before you arrived. But walls that were built by pain can be shaken by truth. And something has already begun to shake. The next sign may not come the way you expect. It may come through a message that seems simple but carries unusual emotion. It may come through a sudden return, a question, a memory, a dream, a quiet admission, or an unexpected change in their energy. But when it comes, you will feel the difference. You will sense that something beneath the surface is no longer sleeping, because heaven has touched the hidden room, and what is inside that room is about to move. But there is one secret behind their hesitation that has not yet been revealed, one deeper reason they kept stepping back even while their heart kept reaching for you. And when that reason comes to light, everything you thought you understood about their silence will change. The reason has remained hidden for so long because it was never easy for them to admit, even to themselves. What you are about to hear is not the surface story they tell other people. It is not the explanation they use when someone asks why they seem distant, hesitant, or difficult to understand. It is something much deeper. It is the truth buried beneath the truth. And that truth has been quietly shaping every decision they have made. Listen closely. There was a moment in their life when they stopped trusting their own heart. Not because they wanted to. Not because they became cold. But because something happened that convinced them that trusting too deeply could cost them more than they were willing to lose. Most people never saw the full impact of that experience. They saw the smile afterward. They saw the routines continue. They saw them keep moving forward. But heaven saw the hidden aftermath. Heaven saw the promises they made to themselves when nobody was watching. Promises like, I will never let someone affect me that much again. I will never become that vulnerable again. I will never hand someone the power to break me. And for a while, those promises felt like protection. They felt wise. They felt necessary. They felt safe. But there was one problem. Those promises were created in pain. And decisions made in pain often become prisons disguised as protection. Then you appeared. Not necessarily all at once. Not necessarily in a dramatic way. But gradually. Unexpectedly. Almost quietly. And something inside them began changing. At first they ignored it. Then they questioned it. Then they fought it. Because your presence awakened feelings that did not fit the life they had carefully organized around emotional safety. You became the exception they never planned for. The connection began reaching places inside them that had been asleep for years. And that is when the real struggle started. Because part of them wanted to move toward you, while another part of them was terrified of what that would mean. Imagine standing at the edge of a bridge. You can clearly see something beautiful on the other side. You want to cross. You know you should cross. You feel pulled to cross. But the last bridge you walked across collapsed beneath your feet. Suddenly the distance becomes frightening. Even when the destination is beautiful. That is what has been happening inside them. The fear is not about your worth. The fear is about their memory. And memories can be powerful things. Especially the ones we never fully heal. Yet heaven has been working in those hidden places. Little by little. Moment by moment. Layer by layer. Because what divine love begins, divine love does not abandon. There have been nights recently when they appeared perfectly normal on the outside while carrying a storm inside. Conversations happened around them. Life continued around them. Responsibilities surrounded them. But their thoughts kept drifting somewhere else. Toward someone else. Toward you. And every time they tried to redirect those thoughts, they returned stronger. Not because they were forcing them, but because the heart grows louder when ignored. This is one of the mysteries many people never understand. You can suppress emotions. You can distract yourself. You can delay decisions. But eventually truth demands attention. And their truth is demanding attention now. Stay a little longer. Because something significant is unfolding. There is another layer heaven wants you to see. This person does not only fear losing love. They fear disappointing it. They have imagined scenarios where they come closer to you. Scenarios where they finally speak honestly. Scenarios where they finally stop hiding. And strangely, the image that frightens them most is not rejection. It is failure. The idea that they could receive something beautiful and somehow not be enough to keep it. The idea that they could finally have what they secretly want and then make mistakes that damage it. The idea that they could become responsible for a connection that feels precious. That responsibility scares them. More than they admit. More than they understand. Because deep down, they care far more than they show. People protect what means little to them very casually. But what means everything? That creates fear. Because loss becomes imaginable. And whenever loss becomes imaginable, courage is required. That is the crossroads they have been standing at. The crossroads between fear and courage. Between comfort and growth. Between hiding and honesty. Between wishing and choosing. Heaven keeps bringing them back to this place. Again. And again. And again. Not to punish them. But because their soul already knows which direction leads to peace. There are moments when they almost surrender to that truth. Moments when the wall around their heart weakens. Moments when they stop resisting. Moments when they imagine what life would feel like if they finally stopped fighting what they feel. And every single time that happens, something remarkable occurs. The future suddenly looks brighter, more meaningful. more alive. Because whether they fully understand it or not, they have connected part of their future to you. That realization startled them. In fact, it frightened them. Because future dreams create emotional risk. And emotional risk requires trust. Yet trust is exactly what they have struggled to rebuild. This is why the connection has moved the way it has. Forward, backward, closer, further, warm, silent, open, closed. The movement has not been random. It has reflected the battle happening inside them. A battle between old wounds and new possibilities. A battle between yesterday's fears and tomorrow's promises. A battle between survival and love. And now something unexpected is beginning to happen. The old fears are losing strength. Not all at once. Not dramatically. But gradually. Like darkness retreating before sunrise. There are truths they once believed that no longer feel convincing. There are excuses they once trusted that no longer satisfy them. There are reasons they once used to justify distance that now feel empty. And when excuses stop working, transformation begins. That transformation is already underway. You may not see it yet, but heaven does. The version of them that was comfortable avoiding this connection is disappearing. The version that could endlessly postpone difficult conversations is weakening. The version that could pretend nothing was happening inside is becoming exhausted. Something deeper is rising. Something more honest. Something more courageous. And that is why their energy may feel different soon. Because when a soul gets tired of hiding, behavior starts changing. The masks become heavier. The silence becomes uncomfortable. The distance becomes painful. The pretending becomes impossible. And eventually a person reaches a moment where honesty becomes easier than avoidance. That moment is closer than it appears. But there is still one more revelation. One they have barely admitted to themselves. There were times when they believed you had already moved on. Times when they convinced themselves they had missed their chance. Times when they assumed the chapter was already closed. And strangely, that belief brought them temporary relief. Because if the story was already over, then they would not need courage. They would not need vulnerability. They would not need action. But recently something disrupted that belief. Something changed. Perhaps it was your growth. Perhaps it was your energy. Perhaps it was simply divine timing. Whatever the reason, they began sensing that the story was not finished. And that realization reopened emotions they thought had settled. Now questions have started appearing. Questions they cannot easily answer. Questions like, what if there is still a chance? What if I am supposed to do something? What if I stop hiding? What if the connection is still alive? And perhaps the most powerful question of all. What if fear has been the only thing standing in my way? That question is echoing through them now, louder than before, stronger than before, more impossible to ignore than before, because deep inside, they are beginning to understand something important. Fear has promised them safety, but it has never given them peace. Only truth can do that. Only honesty can do that. Only courage can do that. And somewhere in the quiet corners of their heart, courage is waking up. Not fully, not yet, but enough to create movement. Enough to create change. Enough to create a crack in the wall. And once a wall begins to crack, light finds its way through. The divine has already sent light into places they thought would remain closed forever. Old beliefs are being challenged. Old defenses are being questioned. Old patterns are being exposed. The transformation is real, but it is not complete, because there is still something they have not faced directly. One final fear. One final obstacle. One final truth that stands between where they are and where their heart wants to go. And when that hidden obstacle finally reveals itself, everything will begin moving much faster than either of you expected. Because the next stage is not about what they feel anymore. The feelings are already there. The love is already there. The connection is already there. The next stage is about a decision. A decision that cannot remain postponed forever. A decision heaven keeps bringing before them. A decision that is approaching sooner than they realize.